is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering His Dark Materials. Book 3, The Amber Spyglass. Chapters 22, 23, and 24. The Whisperers, No Way Out, and Mrs. Coulter in Geneva. In these chapters, Lyra learns that sometimes the truth is more valuable than a bunch of bullshit she made up. Welcome to Unspoiled.
That is very true.
Occasionally.
Very rarely. Hi, I'm Owen, and I've never read this book.
Hi, I'm Natasha, and I've read all 3 of these books.
And we're here to talk about these chapters. I am really bad at intros. And it shows.
In case you guys didn't know, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So what did you think of these 3?
I like them a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, this last book is really good. It's a lot better than the other books always had their moments that really pulled me in. And I think, the first half of this was a little slow, but the last 3 episodes we've recorded on this have all been really solid. So I'm enjoying it. All the stuff in the afterlife is super interesting. And Mrs. Coulter going to the church people and Lord Roke being like a Solid Snake in Metal Gear Solid is pretty great.
In Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's this game from the PlayStation era with this spy named Solid Snake. And
His name is Solid Snake?
The whole series is basically... Well, the first game is basically a parody of every Cold War action spy movie cliche.
Okay.
And you sneak around and you'll hide in boxes. And
okay.
The guards will come around the corner and you'll be sneaking around the boxes. And if they catch you, an exclamation mark appears over their head and it goes...
But what does that have to do with the name Solid Snake?
Oh, that's just his name for some reason.
That's the worst name. Who named somebody Solid?
Hideo Kojima.
That's the worst thing I've ever heard. That's one step away from
that's his code name.
Poop. He's
Japanese.
I hate it.
He probably thought it sounded cool.
Should have consulted with somebody. That's upsetting. I
mean, look, I don't disagree with you. I've never actually played those games because they're very full of nonsense.
Because his name is Solid Snake.
Actually, the nonsense is the draw for me. The drawback is that they're not very. They play very clunky.
It sounds like a snake that's got all of its vertebrae fused together, so it can't actually move because it's solid.
I think he's a clone, and all of the clones are named Blank Snake.
Okay.
So there's Liquid Snake. And what's the
gaseous
other
snake?
No, it's not gaseous snake. One of them's called Big Boss.
Snake?
No, just Big Boss.
Well, I thought you just said blanks and then snake.
Well, he's the original, so he doesn't have to be Snake.
He's the original and his name is still just Big Boss?
Well, that's more like a title. We really should do Unspoiled Gamers Edition, where I just describe the plots of video games to you. Yeah, be looking on the Patreon for shit like that.
All right, so we start off with the Whisperers, where we had left off with Lyra and Will trying to find Roger.
Yeah, they had just gotten away from the Harpies.
Yeah, and they managed to find Roger pretty quickly, thanks to the Gillespieans.
Well, thanks to the Gillespieans, and also because...
I keep saying it wrong every time.
Yeah, I guess... I was going to say I'm not sure, that's just what the audiobook says, but this audiobook's read by the author, so...
Gillespieans.
Yeah. Also because they kind of get the respect of the ghosts by standing up to the Harpies.
Right, yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so the ghosts are willing to work with them.
And the ghosts are very sad.
Yeah. There's a couple of the moments where people have forgotten what their names even are because it's been so long.
Right, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And we find out that the Harpies basically torture the ghosts by telling them all of the terrible things that they ever did in their life.
And they do it right when somebody has fallen asleep for a little while, so they never get to, like, rest, which is just so fucking... That's actual torture. That's a genuine thing that we do.
Right. Well, not we. Not you and me.
No.
We don't do that.
America.
Right.
Is what I meant.
But not in America. It's got to be in Cuba.
It's got to be on an island so that we can technically be like, no, never here.
We don't do that. It's the Cubans.
So these poor ghosts had little power of their own, and hearing Will's voice, the first clear voice that had sounded there in all the memory of the dead, many of them came forward, eager to respond, but they could only whisper. A faint, pale sound, no more than a soft breath, was all they could utter, and as they thrust forward, jostling and desperate, the Galavespians flew down and darted to and fro in front of them to prevent them from crowding too close. The ghost children looked up with a passionate longing, and Lyra knew at once why. They thought the dragonflies were demons. They were wishing with all their hearts they could hold their own demons again. Oh, that breaks my heart.
Yeah, the whole demon thing remains very sad.
Yeah.
At one point, Lyra flashes back to poor, sad puppy Pantalaimon.
Yeah.
Back on that shore. Even in these, we read 3 chapters this time, they have still not reunited with their demons. I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate any amount of time that they're away from them. I hate. And finally, the people start coming forward, and they crammed forward light and lifeless to warm themselves at the flowing blood and the strong beating hearts of the 2 travelers, and both Will and Lyra felt a succession of cold, delicate brushing sensations as the ghosts passed through their bodies, warming themselves on the way. The 2 living children felt that little by little they were becoming dead too. They hadn't got an infinite amount of life and warmth to give, and they were so cold already, and the endless crowds pressing forward looked as if they were never going to stop. Finally, Lyra had to plead with them to hold back. So, I kind of like that, because that's, I'm trying to remember exactly what the myth is when you would go to Hades and you would put, like, a bowl of blood for the ghosts to feed on, like a bowl of lamb's blood or something. But the idea is that they crave something alive,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember that myth at all.
Yeah, it's something I'm thinking I'm going to have to look into that. Somebody listening who knows is just going crazy right now with the fact that I'm like either getting it really wrong or...
You fool! It's the Celtics. It's the Celtics they're screaming.
The Celts. The Celtics.
That's why it took me a second to spit it out, because I almost said it's the Celtics.
I hate that so much.
Makes me so mad. It's a basketball game. Basketball team. It's a basketball game.
So yeah, they managed to find Roger pretty quick, and Will is talking. He says, please ask if you can. Ask for Roger and for John Perry to come and speak to Lyra and to Will.
And that's the last time anyone mentions anything about John Perry being looked for.
That's true.
They totally forget about the fact that they're looking for him. I'm betting he'll just show up when they start letting all the ghosts out, but it kind of bugs me.
Yeah, I understand that. It seems more like once Will realizes that he can't just cut a hole out from where they are right now, that he gets pretty distracted.
Yeah.
Because that is an unwelcome bit of news. Because the whole plan is that they're just going to cut a hole and let all the ghosts out.
Which is a pretty baller plan.
Right?
And I expected the Galavespians to be like, you can't fucking do that. But they didn't.
Nope. They're just like, that's utterly going to undo him. What? He can't do anything after that. They say that he would be completely powerless, almost like God gets his power from the dead, like their batteries or something.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
See, I thought it would just be like a bad PR move. Like God's all like,
true.
Everyone's going to heaven. I like how God is Donald Trump in this. Everyone's going to heaven. It's tremendous.
Oh my God.
It's fantastic. Everything's made of gold there. But then all these homeless, sad children who don't remember their names are all like, we were there for a long time and nothing was any good.
Yeah, maybe that is all they meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that'd be terrifying, right? You find out that, like, heaven, quote unquote, is just basically like a DMV waiting room. Like, does it get worse than that? That's terrible.
I mean, it definitely gets worse than that, but
I mean, yeah,
it definitely gets worse than that.
It does, but that's like the most banal, ordinary kind of terrible, you know?
I mean, it still sucks, but I've been playing a lot of Doom, and hell is scary, y'all.
So finally, Will is in the middle of trying to talk to them, and then the Harpies swoop down, and Will, knife in hand, crouched over Lyra. He could see Tialis and Salmakia skimming toward them, but they were some way off yet, and he had a moment or two to watch the Harpies as they wheeled and dived. He saw their human faces snap at the air as if they were eating insects, and he heard the words they were shouting, scoffing words, filthy words, all about his mother, words that shook his heart, but part of his mind was quite cold and separate, thinking, calculating, observing. None of them wanted to come anywhere near the knife. So yeah, he's found a little bit of a weakness with them, and they torment him already, as they have been tormenting everybody else, which gets in his head a little bit when he's trying to use the knife later, and he really has to focus more than usual in order to get it to work.
Right. Well, and also, like, he's lost a bit of his soul, and I feel like maybe that has something to do with that, too.
Maybe, yeah. That's definitely possible. And Lyra is like, you know, they're working their way through the crowd, and she's talking to all of the kids that they come across, and they all start talking about their demons and describing them and how we used to sleep and what shapes they used to take the most. And it's just really, like, so sad. It kills me a little bit. And this girl, some of the ways that they talk, I knew my death, said one girl. I knew him all the while I was growing up. When I heard them talk about demons, I thought they meant something like our deaths. I miss him now. I won't never see him again. I'm over and done with. That's the last thing he said to me, and then he went forever. When he was with me, I always knew there was someone I could trust, someone who knew where we was going and what to do. But I ain't got him no more. I don't know what's going to happen ever again. There ain't nothing going to happen, someone else said. Nothing forever. You don't know, said another. They came, didn't they? No one ever knew that was going to happen. This is the first thing that ever happened here, said a ghost boy. Wow. This is the first thing that ever happened here.
Well, didn't one of the deaths, or maybe the ferryman, say that there have been people who have gone to the land of the dead before that weren't dead?
Yes. But they don't have good memories.
Yeah.
So I guess they just don't.
This place is huge, so maybe these people have never seen anything happen.
Or they weren't dead yet.
Yeah.
When it happened. So, yeah. They, I'm trying to track down what the next point is within this chapter.
Everyone wanting to talk about their demons and wanting to talk about, like, the wind or the sun just reminds me of, like, when you know someone very old and, you know, sick or near death, and they just want to talk about when they were young and things they remember and stuff.
Yeah.
We recently had dinner with, like, a family friend who was he spent the entire day talking about, like, how he used to get into bar fights and women he used to know and all that. And
in the biblical sense.
In the biblical sense.
He was so funny. He was talking about his ex-wife, and he's like, we liked each other. We went right on liking each other, even after the divorce, in the bed and everything. I was just like, oh you.
I didn't hear that.
No, you were out of the room by then. So, let's see. Lyra saw them flashing overhead. She's talking about the Galavespians at this point, and felt a pang of relief that there was still something that darted and glowed with beauty. Then, unable to keep her idea to herself anymore, she turned to Will, but she had to whisper, Will, I want us to take all these poor dead ghost kids outside, the grown-ups as well. We could set them free. He turned and gave her a true smile, so warm and happy she felt something stumble and falter inside her. At least it felt like that, but without Pantalaimon, she couldn't ask herself what it meant. It might have been a new way for her heart to beat. Deeply surprised, she told herself to walk straight and stop feeling giddy. I like that moment. It might have been a new way for her heart to beat. It's romantic.
Yeah, these two are going to start smooching at the end of this book, I bet.
Smooching. Don't say smooching.
We kind of see that alluded to in the last chapter that we read here, actually.
In the last chapter was Mrs. Coulter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's like, she's with a boy. We all know what that means.
Yeah. Yeah, because she's 12, I think they said, right?
Yeah.
So she's like right on the cusp of that. So next chapter, No Way Out. Will at this point is trying to cut through, and every time he does, he hits rock.
Well, no, Lyra meets up with what's his name? With Roger.
Right. Yeah.
Before that.
Oh, before that. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because at the end of the chapter, the Galavespians find Will. Not Will. God damn it. Roger. And they like meet at the beginning of this chapter. Mm-hmm. And they're very happy. And it's sad, though. Because Roger's very dead.
Yeah.
And doesn't have his demon. And he's just sad. He blames himself for dying.
Yeah.
And for, I guess, for letting Azrael open the portal. I don't know why he cares, really. He's dead.
I don't know, like, what he knows about it. The whole thing is a little bit unclear to me, to be honest.
He's like, the whole thing is my fault because he killed my demon, or he caught my demon, or whatever. And I'm like, I don't remember the end of the last book of the first book, to be fair. Mm-hmm. But I don't get like why that mad. Like, if I were Roger, I'd just be like, even if I wasn't mad at Lyra, I'd just be like, yeah, motherfucker killed me.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I wouldn't be like, oh, this is all my fault. Like, I guess he could be sad because Lyra came to get him and now she's in this terrible place, but he doesn't really say that.
No, that's true.
So I don't really get this necessarily. I never really cared much about Roger, to be honest, as like a character.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He's a kind of blank slate. Like,
you care about him because Lyra cares about him.
Yeah.
But even then, like, you barely care. Like, interesting stuff is like made to like going to get him and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I still, like, I think I said at the beginning of this being the plot line, being like, we have to get Roger. I was just like, why though? Like, you have very important things to do. And why do you even think you can do anything about going to see him, really, you know? But it's interesting, and interesting things are going to happen because of it. So I'm not complaining, really. Like, I feel like this is the best possible ending for this thing that I didn't care that much about to begin with.
Okay.
Like, I was intrigued that they're going to hell or, you know, the afterlife, but they've definitely done more with it than I would have expected because this stuff is all super neat.
So they find Roger, and there's this moment where he's talking about how everybody thought that somebody was going to come and get them.
The kids,
yeah,
especially, which is so sad.
Right. The things with the kids is just every detail of it just makes it sadder and sadder. And Lyra tells him about the destiny that she supposedly has, and she has decided that this is what it is, that it's letting everybody out of, what do we call this? Dead world.
Deadwood.
That is her big, like, destiny. Mm-hmm. And then she says, I couldn't have done it without Will. That's Will over there, and that's Chevalier Tialis and the Lady Salmakia. There's so much to tell you, Roger. Who's Will? Where'd he come from? Lyra began to explain, quite unaware of how her voice changed, how she sat up straighter, how even her eyes looked different when she told the story of her meeting with Will and the fight for the subtle knife. Mm-hmm. How could she have known? But Roger noticed, with the sad, voiceless envy of the unchanging dead. I felt bad for Roger in that moment.
Yeah, that's really a bummer.
Right?
Yeah, that's like when you have nothing going on in your personal life. Like, when you're depressed and you, like, meet a friend for lunch and everything's going great for them. And you're just like, you, like, can't even fall. Your eyes glaze over because you're just like,
good for you.
Yeah, that's great. Did I mention I'm a very sour person who does not enjoy the joy of others? But, you know, I feel like that's a very human thing. And it makes a lot of sense that the dead would just be like, oh, this thing happened after I died where you met this person. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Well, and there's also, like, the element of he's dead, so he will be forever this way.
Right.
And she'll grow up and change, and he'll still be a child. And it reminds me a little bit of the little girl in Interview with the Vampire.
I like that movie. I want to rewatch it, actually.
Yeah, it's just like she desperately wants to grow up and be a woman, and she can't.
Yeah.
And how fucked up it makes her. And she even, like, tries to cut off all of her hair and everything, and she turns around and it's just back. That she is completely unchanging forever, and how some people, that's like an ideal of getting to stay the same young, fresh thing.
Yeah, but no one wants to be 8 forever.
Right.
People do. People want to be kids forever. What the fuck am I saying?
But you want to be kids forever because you don't know when you're a kid. She's a kid who knows. So that's the worst, is that she has, like, the body and abilities of a child, but she has the knowledge and, what's the word? Cynicism of an adult, which is the worst combination.
Yeah, she's really good in that movie.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And then she went on to be never any better than that.
Oh, I don't think that's fair.
I have not seen it. I've seen mostly her worst roles. I've seen her in the Spider-Man movies, and she was in that...
Little Women.
Yeah, I guess that too. No, I'm thinking of the plane movie. Not the plane movie, the space movie with the black ladies.
What? Oh, Hidden Figures?
Yeah, she was in that.
She was in that, yeah.
And she was like, stereotypical semi-racist acquaintance.
Yeah. And she was really looking older in that movie, and I don't know if that was them aging her up or if they have just managed to make her look way younger in the Spider-Man movies.
Well, the Spider-Man movies were like, at this point, 15 years ago.
God, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I forget that.
No, it's just that she's someone who is aging naturally, and they're not, like, doing their tricks to make her not look that way. She's like,
Well, I'm not sure that's true. That's my question, is, like, maybe she does do her tricks on her own, but in the movie they were like, no, let's let her look older.
I mean, probably. We say that, I haven't seen her in the public spotlight since Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know what she does on her free time or doing talk shows and stuff, but I was kind of under the impression that she doesn't do that kind of shit anymore. Like, being in those Spider-Man movies kind of soured her on the whole, megastar Hollywood experience, I think. I know she hated being in the Spider-Man movies. Also, I like that we haven't talked about the name of the actress we're talking about. And
oh, yeah. What is her name?
You
You guys all know who we're talking about. It's fine.
Go to IMDb.
I'm the
Baba. Look up Interview with the Vampire, and it's the little girl, the Mary Jane in the first Spider-Man movies. And
Amy in Little Women. I remember all of her characters, just not the actual woman.
Fuck. It's gonna drive me crazy. I know it's something that I always get her name slightly wrong. Oh, Kirsten Dunst or Kristen Dunst.
No, it's Kirsten.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the one. I like how this is only very tangentially related.
Nobody
to what
gives a shit.
about.
Let's move on.
But I will say, when she was at the age that she was playing in Interview with the Vampire, she would have been a good choice to play Lyra.
Maybe.
Yeah, she was really good as a child actress.
She was a great actor. I'm just like, I don't know, but maybe. So the Galavespians.
My question is, Galavespians is so much more satisfying to say, I feel like.
It is. Like, when you say it and I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's better. But it's not natural rolling off my tongue.
Yeah.
But Will asks them to please distract the Harpies while he tries to cut a hole, and this is when he discovers that he can't. And I
like this little detail that it's all rock. Like he's under everything. Because, it's hell.
Yep.
And it's under everything, like in the cartoons.
Yep. It's at the bottom of a deep, deep well.
That's probably intentional, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun.
And he's like, because Lyra's like, well, what if we never get out? And he's like, well, I can cut a tunnel. I mean, the knife cuts through anything, but it might take a while.
You say that, like, how long would it take someone to tunnel up from, like, the mantle of the earth?
Right.
Like, even if you did have a magical shovel that could let you dig up stupid, like, at will, basically.
Dig up stupid at will?
Oh, dig up stupid is a Simpsons reference.
What?
Yeah, it's a meme that's going around, which is why I thought you would know it. The Simpsons are at the bottom of this big tunnel, and they're like, "Don't worry, we'll just dig our way out." And they start digging, and Homer's like, "No, dig up, stupid." And it's being used as a metaphor for life in America at the moment.
That's fair.
Hello, listeners. Maybe you're tired of listening to us make thinly veiled political references, or maybe you're listening to us from the future, and this is all but a memory.
I wish.
Yeah, if it is, if you're listening to this in 2024 or something, and everything's better, shoot us a message. We'd love to hear you from you.
Okay, so then Lyra starts talking about her life, and they all desperately want to hear more about it and be reminded because they've forgotten so much. And she decides to go take this spot by this tree and tell her story from there. She told them about how she and Roger had climbed over Jordan College roof and found the rook with the broken leg, how they had looked after it until it was ready to fly, how they had explored the wine cellars. She described the clay beds, making sure she got in everything she could remember, the wide ochre-colored washing pits, the drag line, the kilns like great brick beehives. She told them about the willow trees along the river's edge, with their leaves all silvery underneath. And she told how, when the sun shone for more than a couple of days, the clay began to split up into great handsome plates, with deep cracks between, and how it felt to squish your fingers into the cracks and slowly lever up a dried plate of mud, trying to keep it as big as you could without breaking it. Underneath it was still wet, ideal for throwing at people. As she spoke, playing on all their senses, the ghosts crowded closer, feeding on her words, remembering the time when they had flesh and skin and nerves and senses, and willing her never to stop. And when she'd finished, she looked at Will, exhausted. Then she had a shock. As well as the ghosts, silent all around, and her companions close and living, there was another audience, too. The branches of the tree were clustered with those dark bird forms, their women's faces gazing down at her, solemn and spellbound. And she's concerned that they're going to tear her up, and they tell her thousands of years ago, when the first ghosts came down here, the authority gave us the power to see the worst in everyone, and we have fed on the worst ever since, till our blood is rank with it, and our very hearts are sickened. But still, it was all we had to feed on. It was all we had. And now we learn that you are planning to open a way to the upper world and lead all the ghosts out into the air, and everybody starts to freak out. And Lyra asks why they didn't attack her like they did before. And No Name says because it was true. Because she spoke the truth. Because it was nourishing. Because it was feeding us. Because we couldn't help it. Because it was true. Because we had no idea that there was anything but wickedness. Because it brought us news of the world and the sun and the wind and the rain. Because it was true. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that is. I like that, they're kind of like the ghosts in that they're stuck in this miserable place. Mm-hmm. And they also want basically anything to make them not bored, basically. Mm-hmm. Like, they just need information because there's nothing down here.
Not just because they're bored, though, but because they only see the worst in people. That's the power that they were given, is to know the worst about people when they come down there.
Right.
So that's the only thing that they ever see about every single one of millions, probably billions of people. And so imagine like a Facebook feed that you have to look at 24 hours a day for your entire life that is filled with nothing but the most depressing news stories out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Lyra comes along and she's like, here's a kitten video for the first time. That's pretty... I would want to watch a lot more of those too.
Yeah.
So Tialis makes a deal. She says, what if, because the whole thing is that that No Name is like, we were given a purpose down here that's at least has honor to it. And unless you can offer us something honorable to replace it with, it's not going to be enough. And Tialis is like, all right, how about this? When they open a way between, you will be the guides for the others to go through, and they will have to pay you by telling you their story in exchange, which is a pretty neat thing. And they agree to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting that they value having a purpose, but they have seemingly no allegiance to the authority.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just, I guess, monsters that the authority made a deal with.
Yeah.
And they're kind of bored with that.
Yeah.
It's weird to me that because they seem to thrive on not just knowledge, but also misery to a degree, that they would be willing to let anyone go. Mm-hmm. That seemed a little off to me.
I don't know if they just... Because they say that Lyra's story of the truth is nourishing.
Right.
So it seems like they can be kept alive by anything, but he only gave them the power to know the worst about people.
Right.
So they've been nourished by that in a sickening kind of way because they had nothing else. It's like somebody just existing on candy, you know? And then finally they find out that there's roast chicken and mashed potatoes, and they're just like...
There's a beef and bean burrito.
Right? So yeah, I think that's why, is that this way they'll get nourished by something better, and maybe they won't be, like, as they say, rank and corrupted anymore if they can heal from it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I just found that, like, not how I expected their nature to be, but I guess there's a little bit more to them. And they've been doing this for eternity, basically. Mm-hmm. So they're probably due to try something different, even if
due to an upgrade.
Less. So yeah, they agree to this, and they're going to lead them to a spot where Will can make a teleporter, a portal thingy.
A teleporter.
Also, it should be noted, they could double cross them. We don't know.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's no evidence that we've seen that they are trustworthy. It seems like they've told us the truth about most things so far, but there's no way to really know that.
There's also a really interesting scene where basically the ghosts are like, yeah, we don't know if we want to go through this portal because we don't know what will happen. Will we just come back to life? What's the deal with that? Which that's kind of what I was hoping would happen. Mm-hmm. Kind of like... that
they'd come back to life?
Yeah, or just be like vengeful ghosts in the world of the living, kind of like in Return of the King.
Okay.
Or you know, the whole Dawn of the Dead thing. When there's no room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Like, just they could be like zombies and shit.
Okay.
But no, it's much more zen, hippie-ish. They'll be energy and like be one with nature. Mm-hmm. But that sounds way better than what they're doing.
Yeah, which is what one of the women, she's died as a martyr. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, we lived our whole lives letting the pleasures of life pass us by because we thought that there was something else. And it turns out that we wasted our lives and gave up our lives very easily because we thought that we were dying for something that meant anything. And turns out that there is no heaven, and we died for kind of nothing.
Right.
And so if we get to go and be part of everything, then that sounds way better. And then...
Oh, this is the best.
Her ghost was thrust aside by the ghost of a man who looked like a monk, thin and pale with dark, zealous eyes, even in his death. He crossed himself and murmured a prayer, and then he said, "This is a bitter message, a sad and cruel joke. Can't you see the truth? This is not a child. This is an agent of the evil one himself. The world we lived in was a vale of corruption and tears. Nothing there could satisfy us, but the Almighty has granted us this blessed place for all eternity. This paradise, which to the fallen soul seems bleak and barren, but which the eyes of faith see as it is, overflowing with milk and honey and resounding with the sweet hymns of the angels. This is heaven, truly. What this evil girl promises is nothing but lies. She wants to lead you to hell. Go with her at your peril. My companions and I of the true faith will remain here in our blessed paradise and spend eternity singing the praises of the Almighty, who has given us the judgment to tell the false from the true." Once again he crossed himself, and then he and his companions turned away in horror and loathing.
That is so perfect.
Right?
The idea that you go into something with the assumption that it is right and good, and you completely warp all perception of what is joyful and fantastic into something so bleak and monotonous and dull that you can find yourself in a place like this and just be like, yes, just as I suspected. This is what I wanted. This is what my life was all, about. So this is perfect. It's pretty great.
So you think that his idea of what heaven was so bland that this bland place is exactly what he thought it was going to be?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, not to get too much into my thoughts on religion, because no one wants to hear that, but...
I mean, that's kind of the point of this series, though.
Yeah, I know. But, basically, the version of heaven I was brought up believing in sounds so dull. Mm-hmm. Or the flip side of that is I am so wicked that I couldn't possibly enjoy the joys of singing a bunch of hymns and throwing down crowns and shit.
Throwing down crowns?
Yeah, there's this weird something from the Bible. It's got to come from the Bible somewhere. The idea that you're given crowns that you earn through being a good Christian, that your reward is that you get to take those crowns and throw them at the feet of Christ. Which I assume is an extrapolation of something that's in the Bible that's not even what it's supposed to mean. But
yeah, well, I never heard that one.
Yeah,
usually when people bring up weird Christian beliefs, I kind of know what those are from, but that one I don't know.
Yeah, it's a weird one that I remember being taught in some Sunday school.
They're like, "Here's a crown, now give it away."
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
What an honor,
right? And because the way that I interpreted it was more that he's so deluded that he got here, was wildly disappointed because it's not what he thought. And he has convinced himself that he is seeing things that aren't actually there because he is unable to face the reality of where they are. And he has bought so completely into this delusion that now he believes he sees things differently than everyone else because he is of the pure faith.
Right.
And that he has this like totally different experience as a reward and everyone else is living. So I thought of it as just delusion, but I like both of our interpretations. I like that it could be taken either way.
Right. And at first I thought this was Father Gomez having caught up to them and was about to whip out a pistol and shoot
Lyra in the land of the dead.
Yeah, but that's not what happened.
That would be fucking...
Well, then I remember that he was following Mary, and there's no way that they were just
true.
going to have him having skipped that and somehow wound up here. That would have been terrible.
So Lyra gets a little bit confused when he says that and is like, maybe I'm wrong? Is it possible? And Will is like, he's full of shit and everyone here knows he's full of shit. Don't let that sway you.
And you have an althiometer telling you literally, that's how you know what's going to happen, is that they're going to go through. So what, are you going to listen to this guy? That was kind of weird, but...
I mean, it's not like... It's not that he is saying anything... Oh my God, brain. The alethiometer told her what happens when they leave. This guy wasn't arguing with what happens when they leave. He was arguing that this place is not heaven. That's not what she asked the alethiometer. Okay. You know what I mean? So that isn't actually in contradiction to what she asked. So I think her having doubts is reasonable because it wasn't really. Do you get what I mean? I
guess. Just the whole idea that he's saying, no, this is heaven is so obviously bullshit, although I did like his reasoning but what he's saying is, you want to go back to Earth, which was bullshit, and no one on Earth is happy, and it's very imperfect and all this. But again, he's completely warped everything to where Earth automatically bad because that's what my religion tells me.
Right.
And because my religion tells me that Earth is bad, that makes this place where we're in now automatically better because I am satisfied here because my only priority is that Earth bad wherever I go after better is perfect.
That was totally my dad's line of thinking and it drove me so crazy. He was so frustrating because he would talk about how our earthly bodies didn't matter. So he wouldn't wear his seatbelt and he wouldn't take his medication because if I'm going to die, then I'm going to die. But God forbid you get a tattoo or a piercing, because then all of a sudden you are defiling the body that God gave you.
Right.
So which the fuck is it, buddy?
Mm-hmm. And also God wants you to shave your beard for sure. Like if you have a beard, that's bad. Again, sorry, different experiences because I'm Southern Baptist.
They're anti-beard?
Yeah.
But your grandpa has a goatee.
That's a goatee. It's well maintained. If you have like a long scraggly beard or long hair, oh God, don't have long hair. You need to look like Mike Pence or you're not a good Christian.
Huh, okay.
Or you're not honoring biblical values is basically what they're saying, which is such bullshit because your fucking savior had a beard. It's in the fucking Bible. They talk about it. There are Bible verses about the dude's beard.
Yeah, that's funny because like my dad's preacher was an ex-Hell's Angel with like, you know, long hair and a beard.
Oh, well, that's cool at least.
No, it really wasn't. So a lot of the audience, what's the word?
I don't think it's called an audience.
It's
a congregation.
That's the one. Congregation. They were also ex-bikers or ex-gangsters or ex-everything. And they all had some real weird looks to them. A couple guys that looked like they would be cast as like the used car salesman in like a bad sitcom kind of thing. Like they were so extreme with the gold tooth in the front and the like really deep V-neck shirts with the necklaces, and it was just like, good God, what are you doing? So Will is like, yeah, you know that they're full of shit, so don't listen to them. And Will and Lyra had no strength to look back. All they could do was move on after the Harpies and hope. Have we almost done it, Will? Lyra whispered. Is it nearly over? He couldn't tell, but they were so weak and sick that he said, yes, it's nearly over. We've nearly done it. We'll be out soon. And that's the end of that chapter. And then we go to Mrs. Coulter.
Yep, she lands her spaceship. It's weird to me that she's able to find a place to like hide it and no one's seen it. Mm-hmm. Is it invisible or is it like semi hard to see? I can't remember.
It's pretty small. It's almost entirely clear glass, so I think it's kind of hard to see.
Oh, it's like the Wonkavator.
Yeah, I guess so. And darkness had fallen by the time she landed.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
And
that it was dark.
Yeah, and also it's so quiet, as she puts it, that you could be just... She said you could float above somebody's head close enough for them to reach up and touch it, and they would never know it was there.
I was like reading that. I was like, yeah, but people have peripheral vision, dog. Like, they will see you. But okay. It's dark. They probably wouldn't see you. Yeah, so she finds a place to land it on the roof of this building. And she's like tucked it into this corner that if you were like on the roof of the building, you could maybe see it.
Mm-hmm. If you were in the belfry,
right,
you could see it. So they peel off some roof tiles and climb down in through the roof. And she has to like go out through a side door so that she can come through the front door the orthodox way, as she puts it. And the guard is giving her a hard time until he realizes who she is. And then all of a sudden he's falling all over himself. And Brother Lewis, who comes to answer the door, is also falling all over himself trying to make conversation. And she's just very much not having it. And finally he brings her to the president's quarters, and she just demands a glass of chocolate. I don't know how you say it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that's like the drink. Wait, no, that wasn't a drink. I was thinking that the Aztecs had like a chocolate drink.
Yeah.
They also smoked it.
They smoked cacao?
They smoked some kind of chocolate.
I didn't know that.
I'm not an expert in these things.
But yeah, it's definitely spelled almost a similar way, except the Aztec one starts with an X, obviously. But yeah, the Aztecs, when they drank hot chocolate, it was not sweetened. So I always think about, like, how intense was that, man?
And by intense, you mean bad.
I don't know that I mean bad. Like, it sounds almost like just having black coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which, I mean, that's bad. But I don't think it's... I think it's bad. Most people are okay with black coffee. A lot of people are.
Those people are terrible, though. Yeah, that makes me think of, like, anytime you learn anything about how ancient civilizations, like, things that they had or even things that they did for a treat, it just sounds terrible.
Oh, my God.
Like when you hear about, in the Middle Ages, everyone drank beer because the water wasn't safe to drink. But then you learn anything about the beer from back then, you're like, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, the one that always got me was I thought it sounded super fun that they used to have, that they had popcorn at Thanksgiving, the first Thanksgiving, until I found out that they made the popcorn like 4 days ahead of time and carried it over in like leather sacks so that it was all like wilted and stale by the time they got to the party. And then I was like, oh no.
But my roommate in college worked at a movie theater for years. He worked there for like 10 years. But yeah, when we were roommates, he would, at the end of the night, you got all that popcorn and you have to throw it out. But you can, you're free to take it or whatever. So they would fill it in a fresh garbage bag and he could just bring it home, and did.
Man.
There was a lot of stale popcorn.
Yeah. I love popcorn, but when it's stale, it's a bummer, man. It bums me out.
I had a lot of stale popcorn when I was a kid because my parents were big fans of the, Act 2 microwavable bags. And then there was that. And like between those two and also my recent dietary problems.
Dietary?
Yeah, but with dairy.
Oh, I see what you did. Okay. I thought that was an accident.
I don't get popcorn very much anymore. Love the smell. Sometimes I will risk it, but like that and like getting the kernels in my teeth, just got a real problem with that.
I think I might make popcorn after we're done recording. It sounds amazing right now. So she comes in and he's like, so you're under arrest. And she's like, whatever. Can we not right now? Because I have shit to talk about. And then he says something about, the fact that they're trying to kill God. And she's just like, yeah, well, God's probably pretty old and decrepit and shitty, so maybe we fucking should.
She said to the Pope.
I loved it. Mrs. Coulter felt a calm exhilaration as she spoke. She wondered if she'd ever get out alive, but it was intoxicating to speak like that to this man. And one of my favorite moments when she's like, wants she orders the chocolate, which we got kind of distracted from that. She demands it, and then she says that like she knows that it was humiliating to treat him like a servant, but his manner was so abject that he deserved it. Which is just so funny to me.
Yeah, Mrs. Coulter's a dick.
Oh, she is, but she's like such a fun dick. I just really enjoy her. Not always, but I love knowing that she's lying and getting to see how great she is at it. Because it's real frustrating to be on the side of it where you're not sure if she is or not. Because she's just as ridiculous when she's telling the truth.
Well, what I find frustrating is being in the head of someone who's being lied to by her, who knows that she is a liar and is still falling for it. Much more fun to be in her head.
Well, I kind of like that with Lord Asriel though, because he's simultaneously falling for her for 1 second and then catching himself and going, "Oh, she's good." Like, so that one was kind of fun to me because she's getting the better of him for a moment because he's just sort of letting his guard down.
You say for a moment. He took her to the plane that she stole, although I guess that was part of his plan all along.
Yeah, remember? Because he wanted her to go back and he also had a better, newer intention craft that they were going to go see. Yeah, so she had the old model and was thinking she was hot shit when really he was
who I'm picturing as Lord Asriel now?
Who?
I may have said this. I may have thought this before. Timmy Daltz. T. Daltz.
Huh. Okay.
It'd be pretty good though, right?
Yeah, I see that.
And that's especially funny because I didn't even think of this when I thought of that, but he's played by a different Bond in the movie, in that bad movie.
Yeah.
And they're, if you're going to compare Bonds, those two are pretty similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yeah, because like what I was thinking was somebody like Matthew McConaughey, who's like very charismatic and you could see people following him, but he's also got this undercurrent of like, I don't like this guy. I don't like anything about who he is or what he stands for. But you could still understand people like kind of be like digging him.
Right. I think you can get that from Timothy Dalton though.
Well, you can, but it's a very like Matthew McConaughey is like the very American version of the adventurer.
Right.
And Timothy Dalton is the British adventurer who goes and hunts big game animals in Africa. Like that's,
oh God,
you know,
we've got to watch The Rocketeer.
Okay.
Yeah, although he's not, I don't think he's British in that. Maybe he is. He's Errol Flynn. Is Errol Flynn? Was he British?
I don't know anything about Errol Flynn. Nothing. I can't help you.
That's basically who he is in that movie, and he's pretty fun. And he's got a little mustache. A little bit of mustache. A little 20s, little 30s mustache.
No, I hate those.
But that's what makes it fun. Like, I don't like his, like, objectively, his mustache in Hot Fuzz is pretty terrible, too. But it also makes him just so much more fun in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, that mustache is like 30% of his personality in that movie.
So good. Guys, I'm sure we've said this before on other podcasts, but if you've never seen Hot Fuzz, treat yourself.
Treat yourself.
It's a great movie. And also watch The Rocketeer because it's fun.
So she gets locked up, and it turns out that Lord Roke has totally followed her in there. And I love that this is something that I never really noticed the first read through. And even the second read through with you, I didn't notice until just now. Her demon doesn't talk.
Right.
We never hear it talk. I feel like in the first book, we know that it's a taboo to touch somebody else's demon. That you just never do it.
Right.
Are you allowed to talk to someone else's demon? You are, right?
I don't think that you're not allowed. It's just not really done.
Okay.
I feel like it's not. I think you see it once or twice, but it's unusual.
Okay.
Like if the circumstances kind of require it. I feel like you see demons talking to someone else more often than a person just addressing the demon, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking about because one of the witch's demons speaks to someone, and I think that person is startled because they're not used to demons speaking to them.
Yeah, okay.
But I can't remember exactly when that moment happened.
But that's also weird because it's just the demon talking to you and the person's not even there.
Well, and I guess that's kind of what it would be, right? Like, why would you talk to somebody's demon? Because most people aren't able to get more than like 20 feet from their demon.
20 feet is like a stretch.
Yeah, so most of the time you don't need to talk to somebody's demon. You just talk to them because they're fucking right there. Mm-hmm. So,
also,
yeah.
I like that Mrs. Coulter's demon doesn't talk because Mrs. Coulter is so talky and so sly, and her demon is like, has a low cunning, I guess. It's not stupid or anything, but it's so much more just kind of, not bestial exactly, but it's just like seething with rage all the time, it seems like. So that seems kind of perfect.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like, it's the part of her, like, she puts her friendliest, happiest, most feminine face forward toward the world. And then the part of her that nobody interacts with is the part that's like angry and bitter and violent, and she keeps that part hidden and quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So she is asleep, and Lord Roke is watching her, and surprise, somebody comes into her room.
Right. Oh, it's great that, she goes into her room to get dressed and then, or to like go to bed, and she's like doing some shit and looks up, and Lord Roke's just there like, hey, what up? Because she thought she was being so clever, stealing that flying car, and
she finds like a couple microphones in the room that she disables,
right?
Which is just
that's even better because she's like, oh, no one's gonna sneak up on me. I'm so great. And then, hey, what up?
Yeah, he's just sitting there with his legs crossed, watching her. So Lord Roke is watching, and this guy comes in and low key. Like, he doesn't, what is it that they call tossing the room? He doesn't toss the room. He's just like looking for something specific. And then he notices finally that she's wearing it, and Lord Roke is watching, and he is taking her locket from around her neck while she's asleep, which sounds like the most risky thing.
Yeah, very risky, because this is the guy from earlier that she like made get her some hot cocoa, and it's this guy trying to be sneaky and do this thing. Like, why did they send this guy? They're in the Vatican.
I kind of wonder if they don't send him just because they don't like him.
I guess, but why would you not send someone good?
Yeah, I mean, he gets it done.
He does for some reason. He's lucky that she's that tired because I feel like 9 times out of 10 she wouldn't, like, you couldn't pull one over on her that easy.
Yeah. I love, too, the detail that Lord Roke is watching this happen, and he sneaks out of the room before this guy does so that he can, like, get a head start. But he notices that the guy's demon, which is a rabbit, is just sitting, like, watching him take the locket off. And he's like, she could at least, like, keep a lookout for him. Come on.
Yeah, it's funny.
They're just really bad at this. And he goes downstairs, and Lord Roke follows him into this meeting room. And it turns out that they have this machine that, as long as they have, like, something made with the same, like, cellular structure and DNA and whatnot, if they destroy that, they can destroy the person it's from. Which is crazy town.
Yeah, this is like, where did this bullshit murder machine come from? This is like, I'm sorry, because I've been very positive about these chapters in general, but this machine is bullshit.
Why is that?
Because it's just like, oh, it's this machine that we have. It takes a lot of energy, but if you put something in it, you can automatically, like, murder the shit out of someone from other dimensions. Mm-hmm. There is no range limit. And, yeah, that's nonsense. I don't like that. That's way too easy.
Oh, I like it. I think it's weird and frightening, and I like it.
Okay.
And it's only easy if you have a piece of the person.
Yeah.
Which they didn't have and wouldn't have if she didn't come back. They would never have been able to put this to use.
It's not even like a missile or a laser, is it? The thing that kills them. They just, like, vaporize instantly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that. That's way too easy.
Oh, I think it's cool. I can't understand how somebody who reads comics with the most ridiculously stupid, easy, oh, well, you know, if you just kill that one, then all of them die. Like,
I don't like that either.
But
that's why Avengers is kind of bullshit. I can't believe that movie does so many things right. I can't believe that Joss Whedon wrote the laziest way to end that movie. Oh wait, I kind of can. # hot takes.
So it turns out that they have more than enough of a sample here from the lock of hair that's in the locket. And Mr. Roke thinks that he's being slick, stinging the guy and stealing the locket back. Or no, he steals the envelope of hair back.
Right.
And
because he went into the room with the Pope and the guy from Bolvanger and everything, and the guy from Bolvanger, like, gave the exposition on how this, like, death ray thing works and how you need the piece of hair and whatever. But what Roke didn't realize is, he sent this, what's his name? Father or
Brother Luis.
Brother Luis. He's like, okay, here's the hair. Go to the machine place and we'll kill this kid. But what he didn't realize is that the Pope pocketed some hair for himself just in case. Or maybe because he's some kind of pervert. Which, we didn't talk about that, but the Pope was like, hey, why did you foil our plans? And she was like, did you think I was going to give my daughter be in your custody when you guys are all a bunch of perverts?
Oh, yeah, that was a really good monologue. Where is that? I got to find that.
It's like several pages back.
Okay, so it was your duty to bring her here into our care. Instead, you chose to skulk in a mountain cave, though how a woman of your intelligence hoped to remain hidden is a mystery to me. There's probably a great deal that's mysterious to you, my Lord President, starting with the relations between a mother and her child. If you thought for one moment that I would release my daughter into the care of a body of men with a feverish obsession with sexuality, men with dirty fingernails reeking of ancient sweat, men whose furtive imaginations would crawl over her body like cockroaches. If you thought I would expose my child to that, my Lord President, you are more stupid than you take me for.
It's pretty good.
Really good.
So, and what I think she's alluding to is that, like, that's also part of the prophecy, is that if she's with a man, something bad will happen.
Oh, that didn't occur to me.
Because she's like saying that, and she's like, "No, but we're fucked now because she's with this boy, and that's bad." Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. You know how I feel about prophecies.
Yeah, same.
And the fact that it's centered around something so biblical as like, oh, virginity, purity, or whatever, it makes it extra just like, oh my God, whatever the fuck.
Well, I think that's the point, right? Is that like,
that's totally the point.
Yeah.
And they will probably do something as interesting with it as is possible with something so trite. I have faith in them for that. But as far as like speculating on it, I can't even speculate on it because it's something so fucking lazy 99% of the time.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he gets the hair and he takes the hair to Coulter. Coulter is like right on board with this, and you know, he wakes her up and she's just like, "Oh shit, the weapon!" Like, I guess she knows about this weapon, or at the very least knows that they need this hair.
Let's see. He pressed her hand to wake her up. She was profoundly exhausted, but she focused on him at once and sat up, rubbing her eyes. He explained what had happened and gave her the envelope. "You should destroy it at once," he told her. "One single hair would be enough," the man said. She looked at the little curl of dark blonde hair and shook her head. "Too late for that," she said. "This is only half the lock I cut from Lyra. He must have kept back some of it." So
it says that he explained what happened.
Yeah. So, and Brother Luis had already, it might be Brother Louis, I don't know, had already brought back the locket. So she gives, when they hear the footsteps, she gives the envelope with the remaining hair to Lord Roke. He like flutters off to a shadowy corner to watch and stays hidden. And she leaves the locket on her pillow so that when they bust in and they're like, "What have you done?" The locket's just sitting there and she's like, "Wait, what is this? What the hell? Wait, where's the hair that was in here? What have you done?" And I love it. She stopped, picked it up, and looked at the president with wide open, sleepy eyes, and Lord Roke saw a superb piece of acting as she said, puzzled, "But this is what's it doing here? Father MacPhail, who's been in here? Someone has taken this from around my neck, and where is Lyra's hair? Why? What's going on?" Oh, I love it so much.
It's pretty good. And he seems to he's very suspicious, and he's still suspicious, but it seems like he's more or less bought it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like, "You must have an accomplice." And she's like, yeah, an accomplice. Duh.
Accomplice maflamflas. That's what you sound like. And he's like, she's got me. You sound like that.
I just wonder. There's this meme I've been seeing around lately of SpongeBob with this like crazy face on, like, and he's just imitating somebody. So you must have an accomplice. You must have an accomplice. Like, I love that so much. Oh, so that is the end of the chapter. Is he caught her expression at once because Father MacPhail says, "Take her to the cellars, put her in chains. I know just what we can do with this woman. I should have thought of it as soon as she appeared." She looked wildly around and met Lord Roke's eyes for a fraction of a second, glittering in the darkness near the ceiling. He caught her expression at once and understood exactly what she meant him to do. So what do you think she meant him to do?
Kill the Pope.
You think?
No, probably not. Probably for him to figure out how to get that lock of hair from the Pope?
Maybe?
Yeah, probably. I feel like that should be priority number one.
Like, the guy is passed out on the stairs, or he had been.
Right.
So it probably shouldn't be too hard to do. But like,
he doesn't have it.
Didn't he keep back when he put it?
Not Luis.
Luis wasn't the one that he stung. Luis brought the locket back upstairs, and meanwhile, this other dude took the lock of hair.
Okay, well, whoever, I'm pretty sure, what's his name?
The president?
MacPhail has it. He's the one who pocketed it.
Let me see, because there's a part where it seems like Lord Roke knows exactly when the guy took it, and he says that she looked away from him, or he looked away from him. The others bent over to look as Father MacPhail fiddled with the catch. Dr. Cooper offered him a pocket knife, and then there was a soft click. Lord Roke climbed to the top of the desk so that he could see. And there is enough of it, Dr. Cooper. The pale-faced man bent low and took the locket from Father McPhail's fingers. He held it up to the light. Oh, yes, one single hair would be enough. This is ample. I'm very pleased to hear it, said the president. Now, Brother Lewis, you must return this locket to the good lady's neck. And then, let's see. Then took a locket and left.
Well, what it says here when he's remembering back is Miss Coulter says, too late for that, she said. It's only half the lock I took off of Lyra. He must have kept back some of it. Lord Roke hissed with anger. When he looked around, he said, "Ach, I moved to be out of his sight. He must have set it aside then." Mm-hmm. And she says, there's no way of knowing where he'll have put it. So I feel like that's got to be the Pope.
But there's a distinct moment where we see who it was that looked around.
Who looked around?
That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to find that.
Oh, okay. This is riveting radio.
Right? Yeah, you vamp for a second.
Okay. You know I'm not good at this.
Just figure it out.
You're always asking me to tell you a story that I'm supposed to make up. I don't know any stories. I'm not.
Oh, here it is.
Okay.
The priest sagged faintly. He had hoped his task was over. The president placed the curl of Lyra's hair in an envelope and shut the locket, looking up and around as he did so. And Lord Roke had to drop out of sight.
I was right.
So the president. Oh, so you thought it was the because I'm thinking that you're talking. Wait.
No, the president. The president is the one who I thought had it. McPhail.
McPhail and the president are the same person.
Yeah.
Fra Pavel is somebody else.
Yeah, he's the alethiometer guy.
And, okay, so Father McPhail, Dr. Cooper, and Fra Pavel. So there are 3 people there. Right. Okay. I'm thinking that the president and Father McPhail are 2 different people. Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. And then when he stings, he stings Dr. Cooper.
Cooper is the one who's heading to the weapon.
Right.
But also, Mrs. Coulter was saying that maybe if we could find the bomb, we could... And then she trails off there. So maybe she wants Roke to go after the bomb and just destroy the weapon.
Oh, okay. That would be a smart move.
It is. Yeah, because it's really not good for them to have that weapon.
No,
even
it's
if you get rid of Lyra's thing, like they can kill whoever.
Yeah,
that's a bad.
Well, as long as they have a piece of them,
right?
But
still, like, I'd be going to Lord Asriel's old house and searching his comb.
Searching his comb.
See, yeah, that's why I don't like that this like ridiculously powerful Uber weapon is in the hands of it would be one thing if like the forces of heaven had something like this, but like this is something that the super scientists in the Vatican whipped up. Mm-hmm. Like they have barely figured out how to do intradimensional travel, and they have this weapon that can kill you like no matter what if they've got your toenail clippings.
Well, see that because I feel like that's something that they stumbled on, the fact that it would work intradimensionally by accident. Because all it is about the actual particles that somebody is made of and getting something that matches. And that just happens to work no matter where you are. It's not like the weapon is so powerful. It's that the fundamental, like, physics of it are connected. You know what I mean? So that they probably just were like, oh, let's see if we can just do this and destroy a person in the next room. And they figured out, oh my God, it works everywhere. Like you can't hide from it. I don't feel like they set out necessarily. Not that they didn't set out to do it, because ultimately I'm sure that was the goal. But I don't think that they probably expected it to work that way immediately. I feel like that would be just something that would happen because of the way that the machine like functions. Do you know what I mean?
I get what you mean. I just don't agree. I still think it's like way too overpowered for mere mortals to have this thing. Like it's one thing for the knife to exist because that feels more like that's a normal, that's like a localized thing, Okay. It has limits. You have to be, to get from point A on Earth, you have to be to the corresponding point A prime of the other dimension to get, you can't just like cut open a portal from, America in universe A and be in China of universe B, like that's like localized. There are limits, even though it's going across things. And this is just like a little too Deus Ex. It's not Deus Ex because it's like on the side of the bad guys, but
Okay.
But it's fine. It's whatever.
Okay.
It's definitely like threatening,
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed those chapters, though.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what happens next. Although we're due for a Mary chapter, and I feel like it's going to be a lot of her climbing trees and taking notes.
Maybe
Something crazy will happen. Maybe Gomez will show up and get squashed by one of those Malafas.
I fucking hope so. He's the worst. All right, so we have one new review by Hodor Scribe from Canada.
Hey.
Who says 5 stars, another amazing Unspoiled podcast.
Oh, good.
I'm sorry. I'm totally reading the wrong one.
Are you reading
I'm reading the
Orphan
book
Black?
club. No, the book club.
Book club.
Maybe we don't have a new review. I might have lied to you.
Well, maybe if you're listening to this and you haven't given us a review on iTunes, maybe you could do that. That would be very nice of you. It helps the show a lot. Mm-hmm. It helps all of our shows. If you're a fan of Unspoiled in general, take like 10, 15 minutes of your lunch break or whatever. Go review all the ones you listen to and like. That would be very helpful.
Did we read the one that's entitled Owen Hating on Everything is My Reason to Live?
I don't know if we did or not, but I kind of want to hear it now.
It's by Vitzel alias Vit from Mexico.
Oh.
They left this review back in November.
We have not,
but we recorded so long ago. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie. Out of all the Unspoiled productions, I chose to become a Patreon, not for the Unspoiled Harry Potter podcast, but for this one.
What?
Which makes it super sad that there's only a chapter every time the planets align, but well, it's worth the wait. I'm sorry, they're probably not a patron anymore. There's so little stuff out there about his Dark Materials saga, and I latched to this podcast like a demonless child to a piece of fish, because hearing Owen experience everything for the first time and often hating on every single little detail helps bring back memories of when I first did it. I can't wait for you guys to get to the meat of the last book. I really want to hear what you guys have to say about it. Warning, but not really. If you're planning on starting this podcast, get ready to hear Lyra being referred to as Arya for like 2/3 of the saga. It's kind of hilarious. Love, Vitzel alias Vit.
Hey, we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, we've gotten out of that. I feel like I've almost done it a few times.
Yeah.
But
well, first of all, I hope you're still a patron. But if you're not, I understand if that's why. But I hope you're still listening, because that's awesome. Because I tend to be very self-conscious about how negative I can be about this.
I mean, it's hard when you don't click with something. I'm having that right now with Twin Peaks, which is the patrons only show. Like, I'm realizing now that the caution with which people were like, I said I was covering it for patrons only, and people were like, I'm very interested to hear what you think of that. And now I'm like, oh, I get it, because there's big, long, draggy parts. Mm-hmm. But what can you do? You can't fake it.
Yeah. No, that's true. And, hey, we're in the meat now. So that's why, oh, God, fuck.
We got the meat.
Show over. No, we're where, I think we're in the point where you were saying that you want us to be. So I really hope you're still listening, because... yeah, it's getting very interesting.
And we're finally getting a consistent recording schedule going.
We're
that's
back
nice.
at it.
We're in the second half of the last book. We're finally figuring out how to do this. Bless. What?
It's not that we're figuring it out. We're just making ourselves do it and actually setting a schedule.
Yeah.
More or less.
Well, yeah. Less.
Hey, we're doing it, doing a show once a week. So.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, is there anything that you'd like to add, sir?
No, not really. I do a podcast about comic books called What's Going with Owen and Maggie with my fellow Unspoiled co-host Maggie Bensby. But we're on hiatus right now. But if you want to listen to our backlog, you can find us on iTunes, and you can like our page on Facebook.
Yay!
And I'm trying to post a video once a week where I talk about stuff related to comic books, but I don't have time for reading comics here lately. But if you want to post, if you post something on there and ask me a question about comics, I would be glad to answer it and maybe do a video of that.
Okay, that's fun.
Yeah. If you wonder what the deal is with, I don't know, what's Wonder Woman?
What's the deal with Wonder Woman?
What's the deal with Wonder Woman? She's made of clay by her mom!
Have you ever noticed? What's the airplane food like on our invisible plane?
The peanuts invisible! Jerry, I need to borrow your mattress.
Sorry, guys. I feel like our sound might have gotten a little crazy there with the screeching.
This is probably unbearable to listen to, but it was fun to do. Leave us a comment on the Facebook group whether or not you want us to do more Seinfeld impressions, because they're fun to do.
So you can find us on Facebook.com/UnspoiledPod, Twitter at UnspoiledShow, Instagram at UnspoiledPodcast. You can email me at unspoiledpodcast@gmail.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Natasha Writing. That's it.
Yeah.
You're right? Yeah. Right? Ready? All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you in 2 weeks with 3 more chapters. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye-bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.